Welcome to Cost Saver Conversations. I'm Angela, and I ask the practical questions so you can quickly understand what matters. Today, I'm joined by Assad.
Hi, Angela. We are unpacking the investment growth checklist, 5 costly mistakes DIY investors make, and how to fix them. Today, and tying it back to the wider cost saver ecosystem, including tools like Investment Growth Planner, so you can turn insights into action quickly.
Just a heads up before we dive in, we are your synthetic hosts. We are great with numbers, but as AI, we can sometimes be confidently wrong. Think of us as the digital versions of your most knowledgeable, slightly caffeinated friends.
Exactly. Treat this chat as a smart estimate only, not as professional financial guidance. Always check important details with official sources or a qualified expert before making any big decisions.
Right, so, Assad, I've been thinking about this all week. You know how we were talking about that Birmingham woman who lost 9,000 pounds just by, picking the wrong investments?
Sarah, yeah. But that's the thing. She didn't even pick wrong investments, really. She picked household names, solid companies. It's just the structure around it was all
Wait, hold on. So you're telling me she did everything she thought she was supposed to do and still lost out on 9 grand?
pretty much, yeah. Started with 15,000 in 2018, added 300 quid every month, checked her portfolio religiously. By 2024, she had about 38,000.
Which sounds good?
Right. Except if she just dumped it all in a basic global index fund, literally the most boring option, she'd have had 47,000, nearly 9,000 more. And honestly, Angela, that gap, it only gets worse over time.
Jesus. I mean, that's okay. So what was she doing wrong?
Everything and nothing. She was focusing on all the exciting bits, stock tips, market trends, checking the FTSE every morning with her coffee, but completely ignoring the boring structural stuff that actually determines whether you build wealth or just stay busy.
The boring stuff.
The boring stuff that makes you rich, yeah.
All right, I'm listening. What's the most boring thing that's going to make me rich?
Asset allocation. I know, your eyes are already glazing over.
No, I'm with you, sort of.
So there was this study, right? Brinson, Hood, and Biebauer, 1986. They found that asset allocation, just how you split your money between stocks, bonds, property, whatever, explains 93.6% of your portfolio's long-term performance.
Wait, 93%?
93.6, actually.
Oh, so it's not about picking the next Amazon or whatever?
Nope, it's literally just do you have the right mix? Like, if you're 25 with 40 years to retirement, you can handle more equities, maybe 80% or more. But if you're 5 years from needing the money, you want more bonds, more stable stuff. The old rule of thumb is subtract your age from 110 to get your equity percentage, though that's
Kind of.
well, it depends on your risk tolerance, doesn't it? Some people can't sleep at night if their portfolio drops 20%. Others are fine with it. You need to know which one you are before the drop happens.
I hadn't thought about it like that. I just sort of buy things I like?
Yeah, that's what most people do. And then there's this home bias thing. We invest in UK companies because they feel familiar, but we're missing out on, I don't know, Asian markets, emerging economies. You're basically betting your entire future on one country's economy.
Which is kind of risky?
Incredibly risky. And then, sorry, this is where it gets really unsexy, there's rebalancing.
Go on.
So your portfolio drifts over time, right? Say equities have a great year, suddenly they're 90% of your portfolio instead of 70. You need to sell some and buy whatever's lagged to get back to your target. Most experts say do it annually or when anything drifts more than 5% from target.
That sounds like work.
It is work, but it's like what, an hour a year? And it could save you from losing everything in a crash because you were overexposed to one thing.
Fair enough. Okay, so asset allocation is number one. What's the next big mistake that's costing me my hypothetical yacht?
Fees. God, fees are they're the silent wealth destroyer. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission found that a 1% increase in annual fees can reduce your final portfolio by 25% over 30 years.
A quarter?
A quarter of your wealth just gone. Poof! On a 200,000-pound portfolio, that's 50 grand or more. And it's not just the annual management charge. It's platform fees, trading commissions, the spread between buying and selling prices.
Right, and I bet those actively managed funds charge way more than.
1 to 2% annually usually. Compare that to index funds at 0.1 to 0.2%. Over decades, that tiny difference becomes absolutely massive. And here's the kicker. Over 90% of actively managed UK equity funds underperformed their benchmark over 15 years. You're literally paying more for worse results.
That's actually mad.
It's completely mad. And then there's tax. Look, ISAs let you invest $20,000 a year tax-free. SIPs give you tax relief. But so many people just don't use them? A higher rate taxpayer could be losing £2,000 to £5,000 a year in unnecessary tax.
I mean, when you put it like that, it's just throwing money away, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. Every pound you pay in unnecessary tax is a pound that can't compound for your future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Though I have to admit, I'm definitely guilty of not maxing out my ISA every year.
Most people are. It's just, it doesn't feel urgent. But compound that over 20, 30 years?
Okay, I'm sufficiently terrified. What else am I doing wrong?
Well, the third big one is all in your head. Behavioral biases. You can have the perfect portfolio, rock-bottom fees, and still completely tank your returns because of how you react to things.
Like panic selling?
Exactly. Loss aversion is huge. We feel losses twice as intensely as gains. Remember March 2020?
Oh, God, don't. I had nearly sold everything.
The FTSE dropped 35% in weeks. People who sold at the bottom locked in those losses forever. People who held or bought more saw their portfolios recover within months and then hit new highs. The difference over 20 years could be £100,000 for a typical portfolio.
100,000? Bloody hell.
I know. And then there's overconfidence. We all think we can pick winners and time the market. One study found the most active traders earn 6.5 percentage points less per year than people who barely traded at all.
Because of fees and.
Fees, taxes, and just being wrong most of the time. My advice? If you're checking your portfolio more than once a week, delete the app from your phone.
That's actually brilliant. I definitely check mine way too often.
We all do. It's like picking at a scarab. You know you shouldn't.
Right. So we've covered what not to do. What should we actually be doing?
Compounding. It's the most powerful force in investing, honestly. £10,000 at 7% annual returns becomes $76,000 after 30 years without adding anything else.
Wow.
Add £200 a month and you're looking at $320,000. But here's the thing, starting early matters more than starting big. Someone who starts at 25 with $200 a month will have about $525,000 by 65. Wait until 35, contribute $400 a month, twice as much, and you'll only have $480,000.
So the person putting in less money ends up with more?
Yeah, because they had an extra 10 years of compounding. The 25-year-old invests $96,000 total, the 35-year-old invests $144,000, but time beats money every time.
That's kind of depressing if you're starting late.
Well, I mean, better late than never. And there's other stuff. Reinvesting dividends instead of taking them as cash can add 30 to 50% to your final portfolio value. Even an extra £50 a month over 30 years at 7% becomes $58,000.
50 quid becomes 58,000?
Mental, right? It's just the maths of it is extraordinary.
So basically, start early, keep adding, reinvest everything, and wait. Sounds simple enough.
It is simple, but, and this is the final big thing, you need a plan, a written plan.
Oh, here we go. Homework.
I know. But honestly, the absence of a written plan is probably the most common trait of investors who underperform. It doesn't need to be complicated. Just answer the basic questions. What are you investing for? When do you need the money?
What's your real risk tolerance? Not theoretical, but how would you actually feel if your portfolio dropped 30% tomorrow?
I'd feel sick, probably.
Right, so maybe you shouldn't be 90% in equities. The plan also needs to say how much you'll contribute, when you'll rebalance, under what circumstances you'll change strategy. Write it down, keep it somewhere accessible, maybe a note on your phone, and look at it when markets get scary.
And you review it, what, quarterly?
Yeah, quarterly works well. Check if your allocations drifted, if you're on track with contributions, if anything's changed in your life. It's not about constantly tinkering, it's about staying disciplined.
This all feels very sensible, very adult.
It's incredibly boring. That's the whole point. The stuff that makes you wealthy is boring. Asset allocation, low fees, not panic selling, compounding, having a plan, none of it's sexy, but it works.
And if you don't do this stuff?
Well, let me put it this way. A 30,000-pound portfolio with 1.5% fees loses about 12,000 to fees alone over 20 years, compared to 0.2% fees. That's not a rounding error.
That's a holiday every year.
Exactly. Or, actual retirement money. The thing is, Angela, none of this is hard to implement. It's just most people don't know about it, or they think their portfolio's too small to matter.
But it all matters.
Every pound matters when you're talking about decades of compounding. Even the smallest changes now can mean tens of thousands later.
Right. Well, this has been... I need to go sort out my ISA, apparently, and write a plan, and probably stop checking my portfolio every morning.
Yeah, probably all of those things.
Assad, this has been properly eye-opening and slightly terrifying, but in a good way?
That's kind of the goal, honestly. Mild terror leading to sensible action.
Well, you've definitely achieved that. Thanks for breaking it all down. I think our listeners are going to find this incredibly useful, even if it means giving up the dream of picking the next big winner.
Hey, you can still pick individual stocks. Just do it with 5% of your portfolio after you've sorted out all the boring stuff that actually makes you money.
The boring stuff that makes you rich. I like it. That should be the episode title.
Perfect.
Quick side note, this guide connects with other cost-saver blogs, especially free ways to slash your energy bills this winter, home insulation ROI, and using weather predictions to cut energy costs.
Exactly. And reading those together gives you a fuller picture of safety, energy costs, and long-term affordability before you choose a postcode.
And if you want to apply this immediately, jump into tools like Investment Growth Planner right after this episode.
Primary sources used here include Determinants of Portfolio Performance, CFA Institute, Brinson Hood, and Biebauer, 1986, and How Fees and Expenses Affect Your Investment Portfolio, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, investor.gov, so you can verify the data yourself and stay evidence-led.
That wraps this cost-saver conversation with Angela and Assad. If this helped, share it with someone house hunting so they make safer and smarter money decisions.
Your next step is simple. Try Investment Growth Planner, then read Free Ways to Slash Your Energy Bills This Winter and use both together before committing to a move.